Most of us have had periods in our lives when times were tight. This could be college or being in between jobs, or this could also be caused by a sudden unexpected expense like car trouble or having to bail your mom's boyfriend out of jail again. Combine that with current inflation, stagnant wages, an abusive job market, and most notably, the fact that formerly cheap comfort foods are now egregiously expensive means that we're going to have to tap into some old school wisdom to survive a modern economic squeeze.
Waves of new people are suddenly broke. These people have no idea how to live without money. They're what's called new poor. We're old poor. Yeah.
The poverty and food insecurity that were hallmarks for most of the Soviet Union means that there are a litany of dishes that have their roots in hardship. You won't find these dishes in cookbooks, and they're not even really talked about much anymore, but anyone that had at least their childhood in the tail end of the Soviet Union remembers them. And now, it's my goal to share these struggle meals with a Western audience that might be trying to stretch their budget even further.
This ain't enough. Make it enough.
Enter Macaroni po-flotski, or literally Macaroni Navy Style. Needing a way to feed men at scale using non-perishable goods, the Soviet Navy settled on this affront to Italian sensibilities. This seaworthy poverty chow spread to civilian populations in the 50s and was fairly popular in the late Soviet era and was essential during the post-Soviet collapse. Now this Navy pasta is primed for a comeback as the world sinks deeper and deeper in debt.
What is this? Where's all the money? That's as good as money, sir. Those are IOUs.
So get ready to pinch those pennies because today I'm going to teach you guys how to make macaroni po-flotski. As far as recipes go, it doesn't get any easier than this. You just need a can of fatty, spiced meat like Spam, corned beef hash, or a stew. Pasta, spiral or bow tie are texturally the best. The ever-versatile onion. And finally, a dab of tomato paste. First, rough chop an onion while you bring a pot of water to boil and heat a pan. Sauté the onions until they begin to brown, and then add your protein. I intentionally chose the cheapest canned beef I could find to see if this dish was still palatable. This can had shockingly little meat for its size. A personal shame I know all too well. But damn near any fatty canned meat you can find will certainly do. Add the meat to the onions and break apart. Pre-chop or cube the meat if you're using something firmer and more uniform like Spam. This dish can also be made with ground meat, but that kinda goes counter to the spirit of making this dish as cheaply as possible with ingredients that could survive the end times. Once the meat and onion have been well mixed, all the fat has rendered, and the texture is uniform, add a squirt of tomato paste and combine. While not totally mandatory, this helps balance the fat and salt of the meat with a little bit of acid and sweetness. If you want to take your cost-cutting measures even further, you can just use a few packets of ketchup you found in a Burger King parking lot. Once everything is mixed, add the drained pasta to your hobo meat slurry. I got lost in the magic of cinema and forgot that I needed to take sexy, meaty thumbnail pics, so I ended up removing about 20% of the pasta just for visual aesthetics. But I mixed it in later after filming for a proper ratio. However, you can adjust the amount of pasta used depending on your carnivorous desires and how far you want to stretch your budget. Once everything is thoroughly mixed and the pasta is evenly coated, you're ready to dive on in. And there you have it. A quick, low-effort, cheap, and kid-friendly meal that can be made in bulk that keeps for several days. But with something this cheap and easy, the question remains, how does it taste? Following my previous canned food video review, I had a sort of a glut of unused canned meat. So this gave me a perfect opportunity to try a dish that I thought was sort of a joke It's Macaroni po-flotski. And I actually made it using the leftover meat, and I was surprised at how good it actually was. It's incredibly basic, very simple, but it has everything. It has fat, it has protein, it has carbs. If you add the tomato paste, then it has a little bit of sweetness, it has some acidity, for incredibly cheap, incredibly basic ingredients. So this is a way to elevate something that is just the cheapest possible things that you can get. So if you're getting your food from, you know, a more reputable dealer than whatever was in that can, then you're golden. But we're going to dig into this and see how we transformed that incredibly cheap cut of sort of preserved beef into something more palatable. Cheers. I have to say, it is absolutely incredible. It's rich, it's filling, it's not overly fatty because the tushonka, the canned meat, can be so fatty, and a lot of it is absorbed by that pasta. The onion adds much needed texture and flavor, and then the acidity and sweetness from the tomato really helps balance a dish that would otherwise just be way too fatty with very little dimension. So this is a way that you can stretch a very small amount of money and go a very long way. This is sort of a beloved meal. Kids love it. And I think that it has a place in kitchens where maybe you're trying to be a bit more economical. But give this a try. It's something that's actually better than the sum of its parts. So whip it up. Let me know what you guys think. And as always, thank you. Till next time.
We got no food. We got no jobs. Our pets' heads are falling off.